Good afternoon, everybody. Um, that's how we start. Every time I start, big entrance. My name is Rubin. I am the host and moderator of this panel. I'm very happy to be here in this event. Very happy for the event in itself and for this initiative that I, as a promoter that works since 20 years in Albania, I'm very happy to have this scale of events that is very representative in at many levels, from the promotion aspect to the production, artistic, and especially media and communication, which is, I think, a very important sector for our industry. And as we will talk later, storytellings are also the soul of what we do. Because if there is somebody that cannot tell our story, that it's a bit sad, you know. I'm very happy to have today a very beautiful panel that represents, I think it's very representative of the Balkans. Unfortunately, we don't have Nemanja. Nemanja is from Serbia? So we don't have Serbia in the house, but we have Croatia, Bulgaria, Montenegro, and Los Angeles-born Croatian resident, but with a Slavic last name. So nevertheless, here we are. It is, I think, I'm very happy, and it is very important that Muse-X chose an angle or a frame to heavily involve the Balkans and Balkan collaborators in this event. I would say from the start, even though the title of this panel is about boutique festivals, I would actually like to go a bit more rogue and talk a bit more about the context of music in the Balkans. One thing that is not very often mentioned is when we talk about the Balkans, or when the Balkans are spoken, the inherent notion is that the representation of the Slavic world, also because that comprises the biggest size of the Balkans. And maybe the Balkans is a bit like this Slavic cultural paradigm plus Albania and Greece. And I would say that not in an ethnical term, but as two different cultural, historical, and political domains. What I figured out when I was very young, I was engaged in the non-civic sector, and most of people from Albania that travel in the Balkans are people that work for NGOs, you know? So in this sense, I realized from early that Albanians are a bit alienated or removed from the context of the rest of the Balkans. While because, I think primarily because of Yugoslavia and because of a much milder type of communism and a bit of more cultural openness, the Slavic world had more cultural inroads and more infrastructure to kind of connect it together. Like I realized from early when I wanted to go to, for example, even Kosovo, that is ethnically Albanian, is more kind of integrated as a cultural structure, as an infrastructure in Yugoslavia. I remember when I went for the first time in Kosovo, I had to take 3 buses. You couldn't get a bus to Podgorica directly, or couldn't go to Sarajevo from Tirana if you didn't do a 3-day trip. You know, I was stuck in Republika Srpska twice trying to make it to Sarajevo. But back in the days, you could take a train from Pristina and land to Slovenia very easily without a stop. So I say this in this context that Albania, and this is why I really wanted to discuss it also in this frame, because unfortunately I see Albania a bit removed and then alienated from the rest of, and I've seen like friends of mine from Macedonia, from Zagreb, even in the live music scene. I've seen bands from Skopje tour as far as Prague, you know. So in this sense, it's a very, I think the Slavic world is very lucky to have such an extended, let's say, map of operation. And in this sense, I would like to start it first with Kelly, you know, with always like the international factor, you know, our Balkans, you know, we like to, the international mitigation, you know. And I would really like you've made an extensive work by traveling in this reality and looking at these realities. Would you corroborate what I'm saying about this kind of landscape, first of all, and this kind of, I think, I dare say, kind of also shared tendencies throughout these countries of ex-Yugoslavia, Bulgaria, and Romania?
Yeah, I mean, from an outside perspective, coming into Croatia, I moved to Croatia like 4 years ago, and I've been around Balkans and Saudi Arabia, Egypt, many different places. But I do see that the Balkan region, as you say, ex-U, Greece, Albania, I think that there are a lot of similarities in terms of culture on the dance floor. Let's take it to the music scene there, and they have a very DIY atmosphere to them. If something breaks, the people are they're going to fix it. They're going to help each other. You're on the dance floor, you're probably going to drink someone's homemade rakia, something like this. There's a very nice hospitality that the Balkan world has. And in terms of Albania wanting to expand or look to the West for ways that it can grow the music scene here, I think that there's a few things that you can do that would be really beneficial, that you can look to the Balkans for inspiration and also look to some of the larger conferences, festivals, and events outside of Europe even. And I think like the number one important thing is definitely to tell your story, to don't shy away from your political history, embrace that, because that shapes a lot of dance floors. Like for example, Serbia and their politics and what's happening now, you feel that energy, you feel that soul on the dance floor. People, they have this rebellion, and it's really exciting. I think that that's something really interesting that tells their story. So in Albania, I think you could embrace that. And one thing to shy away from, I would say, would be to prioritize your community and not necessarily the capacity. Don't go for that big scale. Don't try to just drive the numbers, because the underground soul is really about everyone involved, the community.
So, Petar, I would pass to you. You look like you've been around for a long time.
Yeah, quite a while, let's say.
You,
Like
you could tell.
pioneering.
As far as I know, like one of my first experiences as a youth, when I was 16, when I remember I was in Belgrade at this youth center, 30 punk gig, you know, you could tell it was part of that soul. And I know from a lot of people that all over ex-Yugoslavia cities kind of had their moods, even in terms of rock and roll or punk or new wave. And that kind of was installed in this larger musical spirit. I'm sure you've traveled as a DJ, you know, throughout the Balkans. What can you say about the state of music right now, electronic music, let's say, as a representation of the underground today? And if is there some uniqueness in the taste of even when we consume global music? Is there some uniqueness in the taste or some particularity in the taste of the Balkan scene, but also of the producers? Or if not, I don't know.
But well, as far as I mean the whole this let's say movement that started in the 90s, let's say by the end of the end of the Cold War, and so it spawned this new vision of the future, like where everybody was kind of thinking, okay, now finally this nuclear holocaust is not going to happen. So, and then it spawned this new energy, and then also was a fusion of Europe, you know, Germany get united, and there was this idea, how can we imagine what kind of future is going to be, and this spawned really a spark for the artists and for musicians and for everybody involved in the culture to fuse together and to join together, and this was the sound, the techno and house music, the underground kind of spawned as a vision of the future. And this future, the idea was to unite everybody. And then, unfortunately, at that times, we on the Balkans, we had this war that we couldn't. And this is one part of this area that, and this is like historically, we were always this division between East and the West. And and also like geographically, where like the Balkans are more mountainous, and so we were these little enclaves, and then you couldn't really communicate. You didn't know like who is behind the other mountain. So that's why this communication was much slower. So that's how we keep this. That's why we have so many languages. We have so many different cultures still living. It's kind of archaic if you look at the world. It's even, but sometimes to be a step back is a step forward. And now we're looking now in the world of how the world is now functioning. I think in some point the world this globalization just went a little bit off the course, and this is why I think that right now we have this initiative, and that we can show that that we can unite the world with the music, and all these different languages, all these different religions can live in the prosperity, and this is and especially this, for example, like this conference. Is kind of
what
the
I
way
was
forward.
curious is about the sound. Like, do you think when it comes to the electronic music, have you noticed that maybe we have some more a particular nuance that we like more, or even in terms of producers?
Yes, exactly. This is my point. So the world, let's say today's world, if you look, for example, the Europe and the States, where all this music exploded, and now we have this explosion of festivals. But musically and culturally, music become really blended in a one-dimensional. It's just like it's like monoculture.
Yeah.
So, and this monoculture is creating, it's getting more about the big money and big business, and the culture is kind of lost. And when one thing that we could keep here in the Balkans, that we could still keep this kind of, because we are the appendix of the world, if we can say it like this. And especially when you talk about Albania, and this is, look at it in the Balkan sphere. We were always squeezed between the like there was a wall around Albania, and in that sense. But now this wall is gone. We are now past beyond that point, and we see that we're actually coming back. The unification is the only way to kind of to prosper. And I don't think that anything is lost. And then if you look in any part of the Balkans, like people, when you talk to people, when you go on parties, people feel the same. They react the same on the music, and they embrace. There is no really difference from where you're coming from. And this was one of the experiences when, for example, when I came from Croatia into Serbia after the war. It was just a couple of years. And then we went in a club, and the people there, when they were approaching, they were saying, okay, but this music and this nightlife kind of keep us to keep the sanity, and this was kind of, let's say, like the sanctuary for the people, because the things that we were watching on the television, what was happening, was just so disconnected from what we were feeling, and. So so that's how, and it all evolved from that idea, and this idea is still not lost here.
Yes.
And
It needs
so
to be.
yeah.
To
So
be
this is
preserved.
why I'm so happy that finally we are back here. And I was here in Tirana maybe like 7 years ago, and there was. And there's always why we are in the neighborhood, and for
we
in
still
my
not-
career,
yeah.
I would sooner go and play somewhere in Europe or Spain or I don't know, America, but always here in the neighborhood, it was difficult to kind of reach because we had this, let's say, but this was something that was not part of our entity. This is something that was
it was
put
implanted.
on us. Yeah, was kind of idea that was not naturally ours. So, but now when we see that. And especially everybody was always looking at us like they were the Balkan people. We are kind of natives, we are kind of, we are
Come
not
on, now it's
sophisticated.
cool, but this is
Yeah.
cool. What you said,
but
what you said now, being behind is being the future. So
Exactly.
I would
That's my point, yeah.
totally agree with that. On that note, I would like to pass to Goran. He has a media outlet that is called the Klubska Scena. So naturally, you cover the club scene electronic music scene. I see festivals. Croatia is a very particular. You're from Croatia, right? Croatia is a very particular space in the Balkosphere when it comes to the events, because for a long time, not for a long time, but in recent history, it was associated with a lot of festivals coming and international productions coming to Croatia, which is something that has happened in Montenegro as well, I guess, and is recently happening in Albania. Now, I would imagine it's the same there by seeing in Albania that in the Balkans there is an overlapping of reasons why people do events and festivals. On one hand, you have these organic movements that come from the urban life, from the people who naturally love music and want to bond together in events, and they create an economy. Then there is this big brands that they package people, put them into planes and fly them over. Then there is the events that are like big money, big investment, people who just see that this is a trend and then they want to do it. And how do you feel maybe in the case of Croatia, or as much as you know in the Balkans, how do you see this as conflicting realities? Do you see this as contributing to one another, or what do you see sustainable, or what do you see as of value in all of these processes?
Hi to all. I would like to say that all kind of electronic music events are welcomed, so I don't think so that big festivals or a small one like Boutique can be in some kind of competition between there, because our scene must to work together. It's very important for whole community, and also we have a big problem, especially in Croatia, from side of media and perception of electronic music. A lot of mass media are still don't recognize this kind of music as a type of culture, electronic music festivals, artists, all of us, we have really, how to say, we are not part of mass media, Only big events are producing that moment. So I think that we need to work together in that way. Boutique festivals has one special story, because all of us is it's a community. It's back to the roots. People who work it from a lot of enthusiasm and from their heart, So that's a balance for the scene, and then from other side of industry, you have that big festivals which are doing some branding for the country, and they are doing that much important thing to be in mass media.
Okay, to kind of larger broaden the scope of electronic music, let's say. So, okay, I would like to pass to Novak. It's my understanding that you work with the Rubik's Festival, yes?
Yeah,
okay, so could you tell us a bit about that experience, very briefly, how it started and what is its position with the general environment or ecosystem of events in Montenegro?
Okay, so thanks everyone for coming. So I just want to say everything started we didn't have anything in Montenegro that we could self-express ourselves artistically. So we came to the conclusion and the idea to create some other concept than the standard concept of the festival, like electronic music or music in general. but we are all music enthusiasts. I'm also a music producer by myself, so we came to the conclusion, as we are a big group of community, we organize parties like 20 kilometers away from our hometown after our school schedules and everything that we had to do. So we started to creating a community back then. So that was like happening in 4 or 5 years, and we were thinking, okay, we are growing a big community who are supporting us, we should do something greater than this. And then we wanted to create something, and then the Corona thing happened, and then we postponed it, and we said, okay, let's use the media, the power of the media, to get on air and to show people what we can do. And when we mention Balkans, we all know that we have some beautiful wild nature, beautiful landscapes, mountains, coastlines, to mention all the historic buildings, fortresses, monuments. And then we started creating FEŠTA Live, we call them spotlights, the events that we aired on the YouTube channel. So we created a few of those, and after the situation stabilized, we were like, okay, we are now ready to make something else than this. And we came up with a partnership with guys from Porto, Montenegro, which is, let's say, like a nautical village, but we wanted to make it affordable for everyone. When we mentioned that nautical village, we are talking about, okay, everybody in everyone's mind, it's like, okay, that's some mainstream event that's going to be expensive, the tickets are going to be expensive and stuff. No, we try to make it affordable to everyone by giving local people local tickets, by fostering the local community, local artists, local shops and crafts, and also local artists as musicians and DJs and painters, and also sculptors. So we came at the conclusion to make a 3-day festival. The first day of the festival is usually an open-air theater festival. For the first year, we had John Malkovich performing with Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, which counted more than 50 people. So it was quite a challenge because it was an open air, and the venue is something like a warehouse, but it's like open air warehouse. We have a lot of pillars, like we have these ones here, and it was pretty much difficult to make the proper sound because of the reverberation and delays and stuff. So yes, for that was for the first night, the main concept, red carpet and stuff. So for the second night, we have live bands, which including local live bands and some big popular, let's say, superstar bands. We had Morchiba for the first year. So we are trying always to foster some big name alongside with some local name who needs some emerging local name, so they can share the stage
So
with
how many editions have you done?
2 years.
This is the second year.
Yeah.
And so what was like the amount of people? Was it like pretty much the same amount of people, or did you have a leap of participation in the second year?
We had a rate of participation and also the visitors. First year we had 3,000 people,
Okay.
and last year we had something about 5.
Okay.
But usually with electronic music gaining its momentum in the Balkans, for the third night we made electronic music.
And is like your participation mainly from Montenegro, or you also have?
Yeah, we included a lot of locals, and we invited for for category one of the big name for each category. So in the morning we also had.
I mean, the public was like. Did you have other people from the region coming?
We
to
had
the
also
festival?
a lot of people from the region, and also we had a demographic of the people from abroad, because the tickets were not so expensive even for the locals. Then also they were much cheaper for the people abroad. So yeah, we also included local artists such as yoga, combat training, painters, sound healing.
And do you see this, for example, when we talk about boutique festivals, I think is it fair to say 5,000 is the threshold? Yeah, for it to be a boutique festival, I think so. So.
A
3
bit
to
so.
5. Would you? Is your desire to expand your festival, or to kind of achieve a level and maintain
No, I
kind of
don't
the
believe so.
energy and the?
No, it's mainly it was across the 3-day span. So at one
I
place.
mean, for the future, do you envision like making it?
No, we want to make it much more intimate, much more closer. So we
And
can
what is the advantage of that, in your opinion?
I think the local communities, we are fostering the local communities as well, and we are also fostering the local artists so they can have their chance to show up, because people attending these festivals are not the people who are following the popularity of the festival and popularity of the main names, but it's just like the vibe and the boutique festival that brings, I would
On
say.
this note, I would like to jump to Rosa and Amaliya, right? From Rosie?
Like a tiny rose.
Rosie? So, how many years you've been organizing ritual gatherings now?
Okay, so first of all, hi everyone.
Yeah, sorry, like from ritual gatherings in Bulgaria.
Don't
It's
worry.
very beautiful.
Yeah,
So
ritual-
I asked, like, you know, thinking that it's everybody knows.
No worries. So we are here representing Ritual Gatherings Festival from Bulgaria. It's a tiny festival, we say from friends for friends, because this is the vibe that you're gonna get. And internally we joke that there is the BC, like before COVID and post-COVID era. So Ritual started back in 2015 in Barcelona, became a festival 2017 in Bulgaria, and had a couple of editions in Tulum. But then everything completely changed, our business model, way of financing, strategy, and we started, let's say, doing it all over again back in 2022. So this is going to be our 4th year since the pandemic, and in total it's like 7.
So how would you let's talk about post-pandemic.
Sure.
Let's start from post-pandemic. How would you describe the experience of this last 3 editions, let's say?
Well, because it's a very personal experience,
Because I feel like Rituals has become kind of the epitome in the Balkan of a boutique festival, you know? So kind of
Very
in this
much
sense,
so.
I would really like to know how was the experience this 3 years?
Well, for us, it was very challenging, but really on a philosophical perspective, these were like one of the most valuable lessons that we had. First of all, just to give you some context, we do the festival, and it was always a pillar of the entire concept to do it in nature, but like really in the pure wilderness. So this is not a concessioned beach. It's not a venue that exists. It's literally in the wild. It's at a cape. So it has been up until now. Now we, thank God, have stable long-term relationships with governmental bodies, but we need to issue permits from 7 different institutions, and one of them was like the Bulgarian Navy and the Ministry of Defense, because, you know, capes are like a strategic military object. So this has been very challenging. Something that was very challenging as well was also navigating the user behavior, and what I think several people mentioned, like this new generation that emerged with almost no clubbing or electronic music culture after COVID. And then, yes, refining the concept and fine-tuning, because similar to
What is the demographic of your festival, and also like kind of is there mainly Bulgarians? They're coming from all over Europe, Balkans.
It's mainly Bulgarians. This is the first year that we actually have targeted paid advertising and campaigns both to regional markets in Central and Eastern Europe, but also in Germany, UK, and the Netherlands.
So for this next edition now, you mean that
For,
you're
yes,
working?
for
Okay.
this year. So let's see what the results are going to be, but 95%, let's say, it's Bulgarian audience. And because of our background and friends, I mean, Rossi is not based in Bulgaria. We have many friends coming from Barcelona. We have a community, like a burners community coming
Okay.
from the US. But the demographic is something that I want to talk about. It's something, I don't know, I pride ourselves with. Because
You handpick them.
they are relatively handpicked, yeah. But
It's like a questionnaire that you have to fill when
almost. You know, I'm the type of person who would be tempted
you
to
could
do
tell.
that.
Yeah, I could tell.
who would be tempted to do, just to like protect the vibe.
Yeah.
Because it's a very peaceful place. But long story short, because we are really a very niche type of event, we are capped at 1,000 people. Our demographic is, the average age is 32, 33. So this
That's a niche.
No, but for us it works wonders because that's a very educated audience with sophisticated needs. They really don't just come to, sorry, like, excuse my French, but like get trashed. You know, when we have a wellness, mindfulness program during the day, then it slowly builds up into the music program. Then we have a really nice dinner for like 100 people at one long table. So yeah, and like the Gen Zs that we have are really the best representatives of this age group. So, but
They're Gen Zs, but they look like millennials. You know, that's what.
Well, thank you. But yeah, I think Amaliya basically said everything about the festival. But well, I'm part of the festival post-COVID, let's say, and I had first joined actually curating like the artistic part of the dinner. So I used to do the creative direction of the table setting, but then due to my current job and background in artist management, because I work with a lot of international acts and therefore have quite a few connections, I'm currently part of more of the bookings, music creation side. And it's really interesting to see how more and more, the festival develops every year, kind of what you were saying, because, well, we do try to fill the local needs, but then a mission we also have with ritual gatherings outside of the wellness side and the food side is also kind of educating the crowd in Bulgaria and showcasing them some new music and etc. So let's maybe say that that's the only thing I wanted to add. But yeah.
Nice. So I would also like to start again with the same round. And I think what is, on a serious note now, I think what is, if we can have a moment of envisioning here that can be like also personal. I understand what Goran was saying, that is very important, that all kinds of formats are welcomed, and it is very true for the purpose of public communication and everything. But I tend to agree, if we talk about also the purpose of this panel, I tend to agree about the aspect of the community building that festivals can have and that added role that they can play, especially in a time that it becomes more and more hard to build and maintain community. What could that be, or do you think that there could be a future, or what can be done to kind of connect these communities in the Balkans? Because I feel that, like, we do also a festival ourselves, Turtle Fest, since 11 years, that has this kind of demographic between the 3,000, 4,000 people. And I feel that maybe those 4,000 people are more alike the 4,000 people that participate in your festival than maybe to some other 4,000 people in Albania that are doing something else, if that makes sense. So do you think, for example, with what you've seen from your perspective than everybody's, what can be done more to kind of connect these realities, or build a network of these realities, and maybe feel these events with each other's communities?
Yeah, I think that there's so much room to grow in terms of people working together and to collaborate. And I do think a nice example would be to activate the local DJs and their niche events that they're doing, and invite each other. Have them, in one promoter in one area can invite the other promoter and vice versa. This is something I've seen in Los Angeles. The promoters, they generally are working together. And Romania, which is also technically Balkan, they all work together, even the music producers. They go to each other's studios, they teach each other how to make music, and you don't have that competitive nature to it, and everyone's gonna grow bigger as a result of that. So I think it can start with the DJ community, because everyone's already open-minded and pushing forward certain ideas. And maybe even to activate some of the attendees at the festival, can be a nice exchange between how the attendees can give back to the experience rather than just consume or look at them as guests. But maybe there's a way to better activate them.
That's a great input.
Okay, on the same note, I mean, I think we just you just should keep the thing going, and I think everybody's doing the best they can, and we just need to also not to forget that we are also living in the difficult situation, let's say, and not just politically, also financially, and so I mean people would like to travel, they would like to see new places, but it depends on the much wider circumstances, and for us it's just to keep the thing going, even for small, but not to forget that that we want to be here and we want to join together, we want to share the moment, we want to experience the music, and then as circumstances get better, naturally if we keep this place, we keep this thing going, just like this conference, like the festivals. People are going to come when the situation gets better. So we just need not to forget that this is going to happen. There is no time, nobody knows when, but it can be a year, 2 or 3, but it's going to happen. And this is like the natural, let's say, trajectory of the world that we are living in. So it's just not to kind of think that there's something else. Is there something else we can do? We are doing everything at the moment, and it's beautiful, and this is what it's supposed to be. And then, but there are other things that we can control, and when these things have settled, everything natural is going to appear. So, yeah.
Goran, what do you think?
I think that. Sorry, I forgot your question.
Like, what do you see that can be done more to maybe create a network? If there's, or like, what is the future of these smaller realities? And if they can network together, what can they do more to kind of help each other grow? If they can do it.
Well, I think that the future is really, really good, really nice, and that we had that history on Balkans. Eastern Bloc, how to say, the people are, they have some special energy, vibe inside of them, and they are, it's in nature of them to work that from the heart. So I think everything what are you doing from your enthusiasm, it has a really nice future.
Thank you very much, sir. Novak, what would you like to see happening more? You're also like much closer. You're more in a strategic
now I'm trying
position
to find
geographically,
Yeah, I'm trying to find the answers because Petar and Kelly already answered it, but I would just say that we have to remove those imaginary borderlines that we all have, and also the political situation and propaganda that's trying to ruin everything. Because look at us here talking about this, like we know each other for all life, right? So I think that we should organize much more conferences like this. I'm so glad to be part of this conference, and I met all of you guys, and that we should definitely collaborate more frequently. What we are also trying to do back in my own country. But fun fact that I mentioned while I was traveling here, I recognize that we have a railroad actually.
You have what?
We have a railroad from Podgorica to Tirana, but it's not working. Why are we not connected? That's the, I think, very big question and the big...
I told you, I used to go, you first, even to go to Podgorica, you needed to go to Skodra. And then from Skodra to the border, and from a border get a cab to pass.
Why do we have borders in the first place?
It's Podgorica, it's just there,
Yeah, so that's why I was thinking, why are we not connected? And also, I think that every local government and government in general have to have connections better connections with the Balkans. For example, I don't know, if I don't have a car, I don't know how would I come to Tirana. Last time I came by bus, it was like more than 8-hour drive, which was exhausting. But yeah, we should be maybe well connected by the roads, by the planes and stuff like that. Especially from my country, from Podgorica, we don't even have a flight to Zagreb, which I was mentioning with Goran
even
before.
to get to Croatia is like...
Yeah. So yeah, I would
imagine you have to go.
yeah.
But even
That's
I
the-
remember going to Sofia. You had to go first to Vienna, and then from Vienna go to Sofia. Is like crazy. Right now.
It's basically.
So what? I'm 40 years old. Can I come to your festival? Is it, or it was just 32,
You
33?
know, congratulations, I'm gonna be 40 this year, so
Okay.
I think you're perfect and you're more than welcome. But okay, I have a lot to
Okay.
say on this topic, so I'm gonna start and I'm gonna pass you the mic in like 27 minutes. But because I'm a very collaboration-oriented person, and the core value of ritual gatherings is togetherness. So also from our experience in Bulgaria, I think we are all currently at the same like level. And listening to the previous two panels, we all understand that there is tremendous opportunity here, a lot of value in finding a common ground and figuring out frameworks in which to collaborate. So the question is like, okay, so what do we do about it? And I think that there are, I'm sorry, like my brain really sometimes works in Excel spreadsheets, but I come from a different sector, that's why. So first, we could really plan, maybe coordinate dates so that we can align on bookings. It's super difficult, especially for boutique, smaller festivals that we don't operate, you know, with like €500,000 for artists, to decide if we want to bring an artist from the US so that he stays 2-3 weeks within the region and he goes around several festivals. Also, we could exchange know-how. Imagine, like I said, I come from a like media, tech, like investment background. So probably my angle can contribute to some other festival that lacks a certain expertise. But for example, I struggle with production, let's say. So know-how is one. In terms of production as well, like the festival is a once per year event, and I can imagine there's a lot of decor and how do you call it, not facilities, but yeah, items, for lack of better word currently, that maybe we could share in the region. And many things. And last but not least, the audiences, because, okay, that's subjective to me, but instead of traveling half across the world to go to some super fancy festival or just a popular name, I would much rather explore what currently is happening in the region that is much more exciting to me, or in general. It's curated experiences with hand-picked, friendlier communities, but just like you said, there is this issue with logistics. So for me, it's much easier to go to London or to Berlin instead of to come to Tirana. It took me like 2 flights. I went and spoke at a conference in Zagreb 2 weeks ago, same thing. So not sure how we can solve this, probably put some pressure on the low-cost airlines in the upcoming 2 years. But I think collaboration is very much the way forward. And as a short example, I don't know how it is really in Albania or Croatia, but in Bulgaria, there is this artistic ego and ego in general. You know, I think this is the biggest disease of the 21st century, where it's such a small market, very segregated, and nobody talks between themselves. And you end up having 3 massive parties in the same weekend, and you have like this much market with this much money. How are people gonna, you know, choose? So in 2022, we kind of set the stage, and it did not end up in an association. I don't know if it has to be one, but something like this can be created at a regional level. I know there are a couple of festival associations that are pan-European, but what we also did that I'm very proud of, and I think it would be great if we can do something like this together for the CEE region, is we did the very first audience research. It was mainly focused on electronic music because, you know, developed markets like the UK and Germany have a lot of data. So the guesswork is out of the equation and they know what's the average spend, why, what are the drivers of the audiences that motivate them to go to certain events. So we did a research like this in Bulgaria and we had almost 4,000 respondents. And for such a small country, well, that's a big respondents pool. So I think an initiative like this that doesn't necessarily have a commercial angle in the beginning, so it feels kind of safe for everybody, just to see if we can work together and really understand our regional audience. I think that would be a great direction. So 27 minutes later, you want to add to the collaboration?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes being last leaves us very difficult after everything, all the points I wanted to make, you already made, but I'm going to add up. I think definitely on the collaboration part, one thing for this region, obviously, that makes it very complicated also to get artists in is the fact that, one, they're all over the budget of the Balkans, and two, it's not only the budget, it's the budget for logistics. Obviously, you negotiate a fee. That's what happened quite a few times during this year when we were booking our artists. So we negotiate one fee, but then on top, it's the flight tickets. It's the plus because nowadays artists, you know, I can tell you from the artists we work with, they don't want to accept it unless, you know, it's a plus. I mean, they accept just a landed fee if, for example, they're playing for Circo Loco, for Time Warp, let's say, for like all these Afterlife, etc., like festivals that they can put there, and they're like, look, I played here. But obviously in the Balkans, that's not the situation. So a conversation I've had with quite a few bookers, they're always, Rosie, like, we would love, you know, to give you our artists, but can you create a tour? And then I realized, you know what? I can create a tour everywhere else except in the Balkans, because I mean, it's great.
But there's also the logistics that even if you have the dates,
they in their
just the you
in
cannot
their
connect.
minds,
It is hard to connect the.
Exactly, in their minds, also bookers, you know, coming to Balkans, they imagine as if they're going, as if they're doing a Western Europe tour, like going to Italy, France, Spain, where they can even take trains. Here it's impossible. Like from Barcelona, I have a straight flight to Tirana.
I will just give you, just like a practical. I think we booked once a Duma sound system. He was playing in either Dubrovnik. I sent him a cab, from Tirana to Dubrovnik. It was estimated 6 to 7 hours.
Yeah.
It went 12 hours because, you know, the Montenegro, it's like it's not a highway. And all the jam in the Škoder border, she took 12 hours, and he came. He was late for the set. He had to take a leak and start like DJing immediately. Couldn't even make it to the hotel. So,
yeah, that's like. It's also, what Amaliya was saying is this lack of communication between bookers and promoters. And in Bulgaria, the problem is the lack also in the community within, because I think in our industry, we're all open to a lot of collaborations, but also because it's so secure, there's a lot of gatekeeping. And I think that's an issue we really need to try to overcome, because at the end of the day, that's, you know, community is the only way where all of us can grow. So, yeah.
Can I add something? Because I really researched this for you guys, like for everybody, because I always have these quotes and ideas that stick with me. So the biggest value would be obviously bringing together our resources, okay? Exchanging and growing our audiences, but also brainstorming and exchanging ideas, because like the quote says, if I have one apple and you have one apple and we exchange them, we are each going to be left with one apple. But if I have one idea and you have one idea and we exchange it, we now both have two ideas. So I think this is
good to wrap it up. Thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful panel. Thanks the audience. Thanks Muse-X. It's the first edition. We wish this tradition all the best.